Good evening. This is the road to 2019. Every Friday night at 9:30 p.m. We gather here on this show to take a look at all the factors that may have a major bearing on the general election in 2019. What are we sensing from alliances back and forth? And yeah, this week there have been things that have happened out there. Bahujan Samaj Party and the Congress fighting against each other in Madhya Pradesh may be something we need to come and look at. The performance of the government in general, is that going to be a major factor? And yes, we'll continue to talk about that. And also any indications about policy shifts that may have a huge bearing on the election in 2019. And this week, there is a theme that seems to be emerging that may well turn out to be relevant. And that's, of course, what's happened in Kashmir, the breaking up of the alliance between the BJP and the PDP, and the clear signals that we now seem to be getting that a slightly more, quote-unquote, muscular policy will be followed. What exactly does muscular policy mean? And is that something that is very closely related to the election? Because let's face it, this government, which was essentially came to power on the back of being a strong government and that 56-inch chest and everything else that goes along with it, has come under fire in recent times because of foreign policy, what's been happening in the neighborhood, countries like Maldives thumbing, cocking a snook at India pretty much, many neighbors going into the Chinese orbit, but also the continued violence in Jammu and Kashmir. And many of the BJP's core supporters have been saying, if this is really a strong government and it's a strong party which believes in that 56-inch chest, how come we're not seeing it actually happening? And are we going to see, as a result of Kashmir and other things, a series of events in the build-up to 2019 which will show this as a major priority of the government? And if that does happen, and there are lots of ifs out here obviously, but if that does happen, will it be good for the BJP, bad for the BJP, good for the country, bad for the country, good for Kashmir, bad for Kashmir? Those are just some of the questions we're going to take a look at. And because there are many themes out here, we've gathered an absolutely fantastic panel of Kashmir experts, foreign policy experts, political experts, you name it, we've got them with us. So let me start off by welcoming a veteran leader from Srinagar, Saifuddin Soz, one of the senior-most Congress leaders. It's a pleasure to have you with us. Aga Rahullah is joining us, spokesperson of the National Conference. Brigadier Anil Gupta is with us as well, member of the BJP, joining us from Jammu. So clearly there is and there always has been, I guess, a slight Jammu-Kashmir divide out there, and in that alliance, that was part of the tension inherent in the dynamics. Vikramaditya Singh, ex-MLC PDP, is going to join us in just a couple of minutes. But we also have with us Tableen Singh, who's written extensively, not just on politics, but also on Kashmir and what the right things to do out there are. And here we have with us KC Singh, former Secretary, Ministry of External Affairs, Coordinator for Counter-Terrorism, Ambassador, can tell us about the foreign policy, as indeed can Desh Ratan Nigam, who's a member of the RSS and a lawyer, and often join us in many of our shows. And Ajay Shukla, defense analyst, will talk to us about what muscular policies actually mean. Ajay, we hear the NSG is going to Kashmir. I don't know if that's a sign of muscularity or not. But before I come to that, let me just go across first to all of our guests and experts in Kashmir. Let's just understand what's happening out there. Saifuddin Soz, what do you mean? Look, there are a lot of people who've been saying the BJP-PDP dynamics were, in any case, it was not necessarily the most convenient of marriages. It was almost destined to break up at some point. The fact that it's happened right now, do you think it has something to do with 2019?
I think Mr. Modi and Amit Shah, this duo has an eye only on 19. And there was no other factor responsible for this. And therefore, they have already, we see there is a hot rumor, they will start their discourse in Jammu. And what they plan in their minds will be detrimental to the interest of the state, detrimental to the unity of the state, integrity of the state. They are so short-sighted. And on Kashmir, they have no policy. They can commit any mistake. But my worry is that they will hugely criminalize the situation in the country, keeping the 19 in view. They're already nervous because there was a message from South, and one after the other, they have lost by elections. They are totally nervous, and Rahul's that unilateralism has also added a dimension.
Okay.
And Mahbub throwing PDP out, this is because they want to create a situation, and they will start from Jammu. My information is that.
Okay,
and that
let me
will
just
be
put
a
that.
signal. They want to create a situation.
Okay, you've summed it. You've summed up one particular view of analyzing this rather clearly. Brigadier Anil Gupta, let me throw that to you. Saifuddin Sood is saying, and that's what many analysts have been saying, this is the first step towards 2019. You will adopt a far stronger policy, really use very hawkish rhetoric, especially in Jammu, lot more security forces in the valley, and that may have major political dividends in 2019. Of course, we can debate on what that means for Jammu and Kashmir and the return to peace and stability out there. Is that a fair way of looking at it?
What Mr. Saifuddin Sood has said is nothing but the wish list of Congress. That is what the Congress has always been wanting from ever since the time they've been out of power. They have been blaming BJP for everything. It's their mistakes which we are now trying to clear. It is their mistakes, their baggage, which we are now trying to sort out. But then they have a habit that they always blame BJP for all this. Now, coming on to 2019 Parliament.
It's interesting you say that. It's interesting you say that, Brigadier Gupta, because frankly, if you are anybody watching politics, it seems to me that all the BJP does is say, look what the Congress did for 70 years, and you are right now saying that what the Congress is doing is blaming you. So that's essentially what seems to be happening. Can you, I mean, given that you and the PDP have ruled in Jammu and Kashmir for the last so many years, shouldn't you also take part of the responsibility for whatever has gone wrong in the state in the last 3 or 4 years and before?
So the question is, we have been in power for 3.5 years along with PDP. We worked on an agenda of alliance. The agenda of alliance was basically a governance alliance with reliance or with the preference to development. But what happened after Mr. Mohammed Said died?
You never tried that so-called agenda of alliance. This is a totally wrong statement.
Please,
in fact,
please don't interfere.
You have worsened the situation.
Mr. Sood, you are not. I didn't interfere. Please don't interfere.
Absolutely wrong.
Please have the courtesy, Mr. Sood. I didn't interfere.
Yeah, allow him to speak. Allow him to speak. Yeah.
So the agenda of alliance which was there, which was put in place, the problem is that somehow due to the political compulsions of our alliance partner, it laid more emphasis on the political parts of it and less emphasis on the development part of it. And that is how the two other regions, Jammu and Ladakh, they felt that they are being neglected. And we on our part stuck to the commitment which we had given in the agenda of alliance that the political issues, the core ideology of the two parties will be kept on the back burner so that the state can return to peace.
Okay, let me just throw that to Aga Rahullah, and I still want to come back to, there will be lots of occasions to debate what this means for Kashmir, but on the road to 2019. Aga Rahullah, the contention made by the Congress party was that this is the precursor to almost like a crackdown in the valley, a communalization of the situation because of a belief that might play well in other parts of the country in 2019. It's a rather strong, remarks that were made there by Professor Sood. Would you agree with them?
I would only partially agree with that. A part of it is completely correct. That's our apprehension also that we share, which is regarding the communalization of the state for the build-up to 2019. The other thing is that the people these days, since the breakup of this alliance, try to suggest or float this perception that this was to clear the deck for setting the army free, security forces free, clearing the deck for a muscular approach to Kashmir and counter-insurgency. That's what PDP wants to suggest, and a perception that they want to float. While as the fact is that they already had that muscular approach.
Tableen Singh, let me just get you in on this front. I mean, you've been, of course, writing on Kashmir. And if I can just quote some of what you used to say on Kashmir in the past, Tableen, it used to be many, many missed opportunities to try and settle this out. And India, there may have been a dozen occasions in the past when we could have tried to solve out Jammu and Kashmir. It never happens. if in fact the apprehensions that some people are saying is going to come to pass, and there is going to be, whatever's happening in Kashmir is going to be viewed with the prism of 2019, is that good or bad?
I want to remind you that Kashmir has never been an issue in any general election. Nobody is particularly interested in Kashmir when it comes to election time. If it comes to mistakes, because I think you asked me if, mistakes in the past, I think that that Narendra Modi could have started with a clean slate, but there seems to have been mistakes made literally from day one, because there was that flood relief package, if you remember, in 2014 that never reached the people of Kashmir. And there was a lot of dissatisfaction that there was no sign of governance improving or of development or anything like that. So already there was dissatisfaction by the time that Burhan Wani was killed. Secondly, I think that the government of this BJP, PDP government has been really incompetent in governance. Forget about security issues. So, I mean, it's not good. There's huge dissatisfaction in the Kashmir Valley, and there should be.
Tavleen, if I can just put that back to you. So I hear what you're saying, that Kashmir has not normally been a factor in general elections in the past, and that's perfectly true. But if you look at if you look at some TV channels, for example, which are trying to whip up emotion almost, they seem to be, there's a lot of invective, a lot of fury, a lot of language. If you're stirring up emotions, Kashmir sometimes becomes a symbol of that. You're quite often calling some Kashmiri person or the other and screaming at them night after night on primetime television. Maybe this could be different. Maybe for that reason it becomes an emotive issue that can have an impact in 2019.
No, they're mostly English channels that are whipping up hysteria. How much viewership do English channels have? It's not going to influence voters. And in any case, what are they going to do, I mean, how does Kashmir suddenly become an issue? It's never been. The issues in general elections are always to do with with really kind of serious problems in terms of governance, prices, that kind of thing. When has Kashmir ever been an issue?
Okay. Brigadier Anil Gupta,
Tavleen is partly not correct.
Okay, let me just get Professor Saifuddin Soz to come in, and then I'll come back to you, Anil Gupta. Saifuddin Soz, yeah, finish what you were saying.
You see, I respect Tavleen enormously because she has studied Kashmir for a long time. And she talks on Kashmir with some kind of authority. She has known many things by experience. But this time she is going a little wrong. She will see that they will stop the campaign from Jammu because they have to criminalize the situation. That is my worry. And you will see in the narrative, this withdrawal from the alliance will also be a very big talking point. Let me foretell this thing. And Tavleen can realize if she visits Jammu and goes into the narrative that the BJP has already started. Okay. And that will, my worry is double, because that will be detrimental to the integrity of the state. Where they have no experience. They don't know what
Let me get a quick reaction from the PDP
and there's
on
no
all
policy
of this.
on Kashmir.
Let me get a quick reaction. So Vikramaditya Singh is with us, who used to be, was an ex-MLC, belonging to the PDP. Vikramaditya Singh, let me just ask you, at the end of the day, your analysis of the breaking of the relationship and the interpretation that many people are giving it, including Professor Soz and others, it is in some way a prelude to communalization and the whipping up of sentiments in the run-up to 2019. Would you share that concern?
We have to look back and see why the coming together of BJP and PDP has been a failure, Vikram, to begin with. I mean, the fact is that neither parties were able to deliver, whether in Jammu or in the valley. And sooner or later, everybody knew that this alliance had to go away. It was just a matter of time. And now you can say that, yes, of course, it's an attempt to communalize. I am not sure. I think over the past 3 years, that communalization and the polarization has already taken place. There is nothing new they are going to do. The fact of the matter is, right now, the primary concern has to be how to restore order and a security balance in the valley and in the rest of the state.
Okay. Agar Rahullah, before I come back to Brigadier Anil Gupta, Agar Rahullah, would you agree with that part of the contention that, look, there are no ulterior motives to this? Perhaps it is just because the government wasn't working. The situation's been bad in Kashmir, getting worse. Something had to be done. Maybe governor's rule was the only answer.
Governor's rule, after all this mess that they created for the last 3-4 years, was the only answer. But unfortunately, the way it ended was only surprising. So the fact that it ended was not a surprise for us. It was always a nightmare for the state, this combination, since it came into being. The state got polarized, communalized to the extent which we never had witnessed in the past. The security situation in Kashmir got worsened to the extent that we again never witnessed in the past. You have South Kashmir where government hardly runs its weight. For an example, you could not hold the bipoles of Anantnag parliamentary constituency. That stands a testimony to the fact that this combination had lost ground to the secessionists or to the insurgency in South Kashmir. I would like to complete my earlier answer. I unfortunately lost the audio. To suggest that the New Delhi cleared the decks for muscular approach towards Jammu and Kashmir with this breakup is not right. This is a perception that BJP would want to create for their perception. But the fact on the other side is that PDP was already an element of execution for their muscular approach in Kashmir. They killed more than 235 civilians in these 3 years. They killed more than 436 militants in these 3-4 years. They held last year the biggest CASO or a crackdown on a particular area where they involved more than 25,000 security personnel and cracked down on an entire area of Anantnag, Shopian, Kulgam, 3-4 districts for 3-4 days. And you can see the situation right now, what we have. They killed innocents, they blinded people, they showered pellets upon the people. So there was the muscular approach was not missing. Mehbooba Mufti was already an element of facilitation or element of extension to that muscular approach. To suggest that this was to clear the decks for muscular approach is not right. Yes, they might want to float this perception in the rest of the nation to benefit it, to take the benefits from it in 2019. They might try to create this perception. Yes, the other apprehension that Mr. Sosab just expressed, that they would like to communalize Jammu and Kashmir to get benefits in 2019. Yes, that is the apprehension which we share with him, which we share with the other sane voices like Mr. Vikram Aditya. We fear that the BJP would like to and would work to polarize Jammu and Kashmir. They would pitch Ladakh against Kashmir. They would pitch Jammu against Kashmir and Kashmir against Jammu to get the benefits. And they are the beneficiaries of devised Jammu and Kashmir.
Okay, can I just get... Okay, I want to just now come to other foreign policy in a minute or two. Let me just wrap up the voices from Kashmir, and then I want to turn to other aspects of foreign policy. So let me just get Brigadier Anil Gupta.
I was wanting to add a little to what Rahullah said.
Yeah, Press, hold 1 second. Brigadier Anil Gupta, I just wanted to ask you a question. One, we've just heard him saying that there's already been a muscular approach that hasn't all necessarily worked. Question number one, would you agree with that? A lot of people have been killed. There have been security forces in operation right now. Number two, do you see a communal rift in Jammu and Kashmir which is going to get worse?
I'll answer. Firstly, I'll say I agree with Tavleen saying what she has said 100%. Kashmir has never been issued in elections, the general elections. Secondly, coming on to question of communalization, it is the canard spread by Congress and NC. Bharatiya Janata Party does not believe in communalization. They are the ones. What Ghulam Nabi Azad did recently in Karnataka, everybody knows. What the Abdullah father-son duo has been doing in Kashmir and the part of Jammu, everybody knows. So we do not. When you talk of Jammu or Ladakh, it becomes communalization. And when the discrimination against Jammu and Ladakh takes place, it is democracy. It is then, they said secularism. So thirdly, the question of muscular power. You see, no sovereign nation can allow the secessionists and terrorists to get an upper hand. The Indian army has been used, the security force have been used, but they have used the force of the principle of minimum force. it goes to credit of the Indian Armed Security Forces that despite grave provocations from the stone pelters and from the jihadists, they still did not lose their temper. They avoided collateral damage, and with use of minimum force, they tried to restore the situation.
All right, Vikramaditya, let me just get your take on this.
Could I say a little word about Kashmir?
Saifuddin says I'll just come to you. Vikramaditya, let me get a final word from you.
I think they both really twisted this whole argument. When Mehbooba Mufti was talking about a muscular approach, I mean, we are talking about a muscular approach against the terrorists and the separatists, not against the civilians. Nobody is standing up for collateral damage against civilians. We all condemn that, and and I'm sure this new decision of sending the NSG there, as well, is a move that will see a reduction in civilian casualties.
All right, great. Saifuddin Soz, last word from you.
I was wanting to tell you that I have partial agreement with Mr. Ruhullah, because this was a coalition not acceptable to people. So, withdrawing the support from Mahbooba is not a big worry in my mind. My worry is, one, their communal game. The other thing is that I want to tell you that BJP had no understanding of Kashmir. For the first time, BJP attracted UN report. It has never happened before. You read that report.
Well,
because their narrative in Jammu, their narrative elsewhere is very bad, detrimental to the integrity of the state.
Well, the
so
UN,
they have bungled.
the United Nations
and now
Human
I
Rights
want
Commission.
I want to tell you, they will use Kashmir in their narrative, and from Jammu they will start the campaign.
All right.
There is nothing new.
Right, sir, we heard you.
They have already done that.
I mean, the UN Human Rights Commission is a body that is coming under escalating attack. No less a person than Donald Trump himself has pulled the US out of there. So, that's it. That's a final nail, I guess, for the UN Human Rights Commission. Professor Soz, thank you so much for joining us. Aga Rahullah, thanks for being with us as well. Vikramaditya Singh, thanks for joining us. Brigadier Anil Gupta, it was great to get your perspective on it. I just want to shift focus. Sorry, Anil Gupta, you were saying one last comment. Let me just try and get that from you.
Yeah, you see the point Mr. Saifuddin Soz is making of the election campaign starting from Jammu. There's nothing new. Even 2014 campaigns, Mr. Modi started from Jammu. His Onkar rally was the beginning of the campaign, because he always believes that under the protection of Mata Vaishno Devi and with her blessings, he wants to start the campaign.
Okay.
No,
all right, fine. We'll see what happens in Jammu and Kashmir. Obviously, it's a state that has seen a lot of escalating violence. We were hoping that Kashmir would be on the mend. We keep hoping that Kashmir will be on the mend, but it has taken a turn for the worse. And let me tell you, the dismissal, the fact that you don't have an elected government, and the fact that once again you have governor's rule is not necessarily a good sign. It's been 16% of the time since 1965 that you've actually had governor's rule in Jammu and Kashmir, and it's never good. But there doesn't seem to be any other possibility for forming a government out there, so we perhaps have to live with it just for the minute. I just want to shift focus a little bit to foreign policy in general. What we've just heard from Kashmir, yes, but let's broaden that a little bit, because one of the things that the BJP really came to power saying, as I started off by saying, was this is going to be a tough government. India first, 56-inch chest. We will make India give it the correct position on the globe. And interestingly, just after Narendra Modi was sworn in, it seemed for a period of time as if foreign policy was almost going to be and was looking to be his area of first immediate success. Just take a look at some of the graphics we're going to show you. From the swearing in when all the neighbors came inside, it was a big moment. Then you had these, these atmospherics of all the visits to countries here, visits abroad, a lot of people coming in, the rising stature of India. All of that happened for 2 years or 3 years. Now that story seems to have started to get shaken a little bit. Not just because of some of these factors. Look at our neighbors. A country like Maldives, which would, normally not have, would not have really had the courage to really thumb its nose in India, now saying Indian workers are not welcome, take your helicopters back, bases are being given, to China or to anybody else. Seychelles saying that we don't want you to have a naval base out here. Sri Lanka, there are issues that's happening in Nepal. let's not even go there because there are lots of problems, obviously. UK saying that we're not going to give you students' visa. It's a long list of possible foreign policy setbacks. From being one of the high points of this government, is it something which you think the government's been a bit on the defensive of? And that's why they need to take a more muscular approach in places like Kashmir?
One, let me begin with Kashmir, because it's important. The agenda of alliance has a portion on foreign policy. It quotes Atalji, Prime Minister Vajpayee, Kashmiriyat, Insaniyat, Jamhuriyat. It talks of LOC trade, people-to-people contacts, because that was one leg of that agenda of alliance. There was governance, there was security, and the third leg was an outreach to Pakistan. And I must say in 2015, Mr. Modi tried, because he went to Ufa in the middle of 2015, he dropped by in Lahore at the end of 2015, but then Mufti Sahib dies at the beginning of 2016. And there's a vacuum, and I think that is a mistake the central government made, because Mehbooba took 3-4 months to decide whether she's going to become chief minister or not become a chief minister. That drift was bad, and as Tavleen said, there was already a problem about coming from the flood times, etc. The delivery had not been there. And then comes Burhan Wani, and that lit it up. So if it wasn't Burhan Wani, something else may have happened. And from there, that's the dividing line. They've been fighting the fire since then, pellet guns. So what you're seeing the UN do today, I mean, it's unprecedented. You can say it's one-sided. You can say the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights never, because for 2 years he said, I want to send a team, I want to do this. It is true, it reads almost like an OIC report, but he has condemned India roundly in this on whether AFSPA, disappearances, shootings, pellet guns. Now that he's presented to the Human Rights Council. And we may say that Trump has ignored it, but we are not Trump. And remember, Trump has also gone back. He actually withdrew after he was roundly criticized for separating children, because that's what the UN High Commissioner said. And then he's had to take it back when there was an outcry domestically. US has that. Now, coming to foreign policy, generally two things have happened. Mr. Modi reached out to the world. He's largely building on what was already there, but he brought his own style, his own very personalized style, making it seem as if, you know, these are all new initiatives, but foreign policy is always in continuum. We grant him that. He brought a certain theatrical quality to it, certain personalized diplomacy, but two things happened. Chinese rise and Trump's advent. You see, Trump having come in has completely destabilized the world with his anti-globalization, his alliance breaking up, his backing Saudis, creating a fight in the GCC, going back on the Iran deal. So your external
Why would that
environment
necessarily work against India is something that we should discuss and we should look at. But before I come back to some of those points, let me just get the others in on this. Do you think foreign policy, which was one of the things, and in general, a rise of India's stature in the world, side muscular approach to foreign policy, that is something which I think the BJP core was almost hoping for from Narendra Modi. Has that happened? I mean, it's not very good dynamics, or it's not very good atmospherics to have a country like Maldives, you know, pretty much saying, no, well, you know, essentially telling us to get lost.
I'll begin with the flip side. Taking the case of Maldives, where personally I feel that when the problem arose, I personally believe that there should have been boots around instead of boots on the ground. And if that had taken place, probably the dynamics would have been different in that region. And that's probably was one flip side that I see. But on the other aspects, if you see, the Pakistan is isolated among SAARC region. The surgical strikes that took place also established the supremacy. The Doklam issue that had taken place, the right kind of response that was given, the Vietnam relationship and the South China issue that India took up.
Doklam by all accounts, we said it is a major Indian victory, but a lot of the reports that are coming is that China has actually strengthened its position there.
See, China has been able to strengthen its position in its own territory. It was not able to move beyond which it was trying to. So that was the right kind of a response. See, nobody can deny that China is occupying the space that America had in the previous years. And both the countries cannot have direct confrontation right now. And therefore, India's policy to engage China as well, at the same time to have a very firm position on border issues is something which this government has been able to establish.
Okay, I'm just asking you, 2019, because this show is about the road to 2019. When Narendra Modi goes back to the electorate 1 year from now, are there people who are going to look at him and saying, "Aapne kaha tha, you know, 56-cent chest, hua kya?"
ठीक है, I just told you 56 inches.
56 इंच की छाती का क्या हुआ?
Surgical strike, Doklam, South China issues, Maldives, I agree, it's a flip side. I agree.
South China, what's happened in South China?
South China, see, with Vietnam, that government of India has taken the stand, and even trying to give the coastal guards vessels to them to take on the Chinese incursions. And the oil exploration in South China Sea is something the previous governments could not even think of. This is what 56 inches is.
Ajay is itching to get into this, and then I'm going to come to Tableen.
I think, Vikram, this whole business of muscularity and so on is completely misplaced. If you look at what we've done with Pakistan, we've had a DGMO's agreement to tamp down on firing on the borders. Both sides have tamped down on firing. India has happily accepted, claimed it was giving Pakistan a big pounding, but if it had been so, it would not have agreed so quickly to the agreement to revert to the 2003 ceasefire. With China, we've had a reset in this informal summit at Wuhan. Both sides have told their militaries to sort of tone down, to make sure that there are no confrontations. So, I mean, where is the muscularity? We have actually had, and rightly so, I'm not saying we should be muscular. I'm saying it's a sensible tone down of muscularity.
But you're saying it's the right way to go, but I'm wondering whether, look, this is a theory.
It's completely contrary to
It's a theory that many people are saying 2019 elections are approaching. The government may have problems in other areas, farmers, distress, there's that, opposition getting together. One of the ways to respond to that is to say, okay, we're going to, take a tough line with Pakistan. Get tough in Kashmir.
There is a complete...
Maybe finally tell Maldives to shut up.
There is a complete reversal of Chappan ki chhati. It's not a bad reversal, it's a sensible reversal, but it's a reversal. And Modi cannot go to the electorate.
It's going to go back up to that.
No.
In the next 1 year.
Let's go back to Kashmir, where we started from. Aga Ruhollah was absolutely correct. There was a muscular policy already in place. There were civilians being shot down when they attacked the security forces. Are you saying that there is scope for more muscularity over the policy that is already taking place before the ceasefire?
There's always a scope for more muscularity.
There is not a scope for more muscularity for the simple reason that there are two sides to muscularity, and the other side also gets a vote. If you increase the levels of violence in Kashmir, you will pay a price as much as the separatists are paying a price. It's just like when we
Which is the other side that has a vote? The BJP may not care that the people in Jammu and Kashmir Valley are not going to vote for them. They're not expecting to get their votes to start with.
That's true. But if you're suggesting that that is the BJP's calculation, it is a cynical calculation that I don't believe even the BJP would make.